What is going on, people? This is Elder Tenchi, and I am back for another TMNT Rant Rave review for this week's episode entitled Bats in the Belfry. Now, whereas last week's episode was pretty fun and nice for filler, this one still feels like filler, but at the same time, it furthers the development of April and her dependency on the crystal. But it starts off with the Turtles reading comics, and they're clear parodies of Marvel and DC comics. You got stuff like Wingnut and Screw Loose. You got Arachnid Man, and you got stuff which is probably my favorite parody of all. The Fantastic Four food groups. So they're sitting there nerding out about comics, and Donnie is checking up on April because April is having headaches and been having these weird dreams about different galaxies and stuff. And it comes off as kind of her bond with the crystal has turned into an unhealthy obsession, which seems to be like a addiction. And I think that's what they wanted to touch on, dependency and addiction. And in this case, it's in my opinion, it's probably because of the fact that the crystal is helping her, or at least she's thinking, helping her focus her powers more. And now she's thinking that that she needs it, so she's always wearing it. You know what I mean? And it's messing around with her head. And we find out that the crystal has these powers that as soon as it gets some sort of electrical charge, it has the power to bring things to life, namely the characters in Michelangelo's comic. So, from that point on, you have parodies of Batman and Robin, Wingnut and Screw Loose, who don't know at the time that they are that they're just comic book characters, patrolling the city. You got Casey Jones and Michelangelo helping them out, and it's an awesome episode because it harkens back to 1960s Batman and Robin. If you remember the campiness of that show, then you'll love this episode. Or if you're a kid and you've ever watched, or if your parents have ever told you about the 1960s Adam West Batman with the bam, the pow, the bang, the zoom, the zip, all that onomatopoeia, then you will love the heck out of this show. You even see the return of Turf Lytle, which was just perfect. Perfect. And this is the second time since this new arc that we've seen Mikey dressed as Turf Lytle. Now, one thing I did not understand is when Mikey realizes that these characters from his comic book are coming to life, he brings it up to his bros, and nobody believes him. Now, granted, that's a natural reaction to, for plots like this, but one thing I don't get is why don't you believe him? Each time he's had a weird sense or inkling or bad omen or feeling about certain things, especially weird things, like for example April's crystal, the Dimension X, and back in the earlier episodes, the Squirrelinoids. Each time he's had a weird inkling about something, he's been correct. So, and especially. And here's the kicker. You have been out in space. You've been out in space seeing weird alien species, stuff that you couldn't explain otherwise. Talking space lizards, bugs, giant bugs the size of skyscrapers, giant rock monsters. And you don't think that it's possible that Mikey could be telling the truth? Man, you guys should be listening to Mikey more often, which is something that they realized throughout this episode. But the main plot about this episode is more or less April's crystal, her dependency on the crystal, and the effects it has on people. Because as soon as Wingnut and Screw Loose get a hold of it, they turn into the bat and the bug that they're dressed as. Apparently, these characters are from other planets. They have the kind of the spirit of Batman and Robin are there, but because they're parodies, they're from other planets and stuff like that. So it makes sense. But once they get their hand on the crystal and find out that that's what's giving them their power to actually be in the real world, they turn evil. Their mind gets warped. They turn we see more parodies of the Batman and Robin universe with with the villains and also with the headquarters. They got this giant mansion of a headquarters, and it has all the suits and stuff that they wore. It's even got the giant penny that's in the Batcave from Batman. So I thought that was really fun. But what the heck is going on with April? I suspect that this crystal is going to end up not only taking over her mind, but possibly turning her evil for the time being, because this is really an interesting part of the plot. Now, we know that this crystal is enhancing her power greatly, but to what degree is this going to mess up her mind? She's already acting like a fiend who hasn't had their fix, and every time someone who takes it away from them, like cigarettes or something worse, or even alcohol, like I said, it's an addiction. In this case, it's the power of that crystal. So I wonder exactly what's gonna happen, because she hates people touching it. She hates being away from it. She hates the thought of losing it. Why? Is she gonna end up turning into a villain? That would be my guess. For the rest of this arc, I think she might end up turning into one of their enemies, probably more powerful than the Shredder, because the Shredder right now is still being souped up, and he's turning into the Super Shredder. We didn't see him in this episode, but this is what we got so far for this arc, and I think the way it's going is going to be phenomenal when everything comes to a conclusion. But all in all, this episode was pretty good, pretty funny, and we got to see a little bit more development with April as not only using her powers, but also getting a little bit more of a story about that crystal. Also, really, as a fan of Nickelodeon, this episode, even though I've seen plots like this before, where a weird thing turns something to life, it reminds me of Fairly Odd Parents. In the early episodes of Fairly Odd Parents, when Timmy had wished for the Crimson Chin, his favorite comic book character, to come to life during a convention once, and then he finds out that he's actually made up. That's what it kind of reminded me of the most. But I digress. What do you guys think of this episode? What do you think of this arc so far? And what do you think this crystal is going to amount to, and the power that it has over April? How is this gonna all turn out? I don't know. I mean, let me know in the comments below, and I will see you in the next review. Thank you so much for watching. Peace, love, and never be normal.